Aloha and welcome to Live at the Legislature, where every week we bring you the bills and events happening down at the state capitol. Representing the House Majority Democrats this morning, we have Representative Takashi Ohno, who represents District 27, Nu'uanu, Laliha, Pu'unui, and Alava Heights. Good morning, Representative. Thank you for being here.
Good morning, James. Good morning, Alelo. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we're nearing the end of a long 2020 legislative session. It's been extended because of the coronavirus, but there are some very critical bills that have happened, and nothing, I think, overall is more important than the state budget. Can you tell us a little bit about Senate Bill 126 and what was in that state budget? Tell us about what happened there.
I'd be happy to. Here at the state legislature, we've reconvened with the purpose of hearing and passing a big budget bill. The federal government sent us a lot of money through the CARES Act, and we have until the end of the year to spend it. We have also a budget to create for our next fiscal year 21, which starts on July 1st. Hearing from my community during this pandemic time, the desperation and frustration from so many residents as they've struggled to get in touch with unemployment, to make ends meet. It's been unlike anything I've heard during my 8 years in office, which is why I'm thrilled that we put some budgetary priorities that will set to incentivize and spark our economy. Most of the money we're going to be spending is actually for unemployment insurance and for rent assistance. But there are 3 things in this budget that I want to highlight to our listeners today that I think are going to get our economy back on track. The first one is we're appropriating $15 million to be given as grants to local companies who are willing to create PPE or hand sanitizers. I guess the most common example is those distilleries who've changed their mission and changed their operations from, rather than creating libations or adult beverages, they're now creating hand sanitizer. We want to support those companies who are going to help us keep up with the demand for PPE and hand sanitizer. We're giving also $2 million to the Department of Agriculture to spur that industry, to try to create new opportunities for new farmers. Our ag lands here in Hawaii set us apart from anywhere else in the world. I think that's a wise investment. Finally, there's $36 million that we are investing into a program that we're naming Hawaii Works. It's modeled after a conservation corps, where we're going to be having companies with 50 or less employees, nonprofits, even government agencies, and just private businesses for them to hire people. We want these industries to be in sectors that are not related to tourism, because we want to be diversifying our economy. All these things I think are going to put our businesses back to work. I think it's a wise investment with the CARES Act money. I'm looking forward to hearing from my constituents, and hopefully it changes the conversation. Listen, when COVID-19 hit, I think we were all on board, and we understood that if we don't shut down Hawaii and keep this from spreading, there would be consequences. Right now, the opposite is true as well. If we wait too long before incentivizing business, putting people back to work, there's similarly going to be consequences.
Now, a lot of that money you're talking about was federal CARES Act money, correct?
That's right.
Now, so how long until that money can actually reach the people? Will that be pretty quick, that unemployment and other things actually get to people who need it?
Well, we intend to pass a budget as soon as possible. Again, the new fiscal year starts July 1st. So within that first month, hopefully the governor is going to be sending that money to his departments, and those departments can start executing their plan.
As quick as possible. Okay.
ASAP.
Now, I know there was another issue you were very interested in this session, and that's the inmate release program. And that's where, in worries about the coronavirus, prisoners were released. Sometimes it seems a little too soon. What do you think about that program and how it went?
It was very concerning, to say the least. I was in touch with folks with Domestic Violence Action Center. They were very concerned because some of their clients were worried that the new introduction of some of those individuals may cause harm to their families. I've spoken to residents in my district who have, in the middle of the night, turned a corner and found a stranger in their home. That is a jarring, to say the least, terrifying experience that I don't want anyone ever to have in their own home. Some of the critiques I have of the issue of this program were that the special master who was appointed, Special Master Foley, he was appointed to oversee the program. I thought that he did not take a strong step in putting his leadership and stamp on the program. Instead, he let the choices be made by various judges when he could have authored, or he could have asked that all these folks need ankle monitors. He could have had everyone also be sure that there was a plan to make sure that they would be monitored. Rather, he let those decisions out to the system, and some of those things didn't come to pass. Another criticism I have is just very simply that during this time in March and April, the courts allowed inmates out who did not have an address. And you might recall that during these months of March and April, there was a stay-at-home order where we were supposed to be at home, except for very few circumstances, to prevent the spread of the pandemic, to prevent the spread of COVID-19. During that time, the courts intentionally let out people with no home addresses, knowing that they would be violating that stay-at-home order. In the end, the Public Safety Department reported that there are 0 cases that were found in our prisons and jails. The public defender is the one who started this process. He initially wrote that it was inevitable that COVID-19 would be entering our jails. We found that to be false. I think that he's not an epidemiologist, and I feel that the entire premise of this program turned out to be false.
Doesn't sound like they thought it through very well. Well, on a lighter note, every House session begins with an invocation by someone. And last week, you had a very unique invocation for the representatives. What did you do, and why did you do that?
I'm glad you mentioned that, James. As I've grown older, I've recognized that I've become very good at staying in my comfort zone, that I developed all sorts of ways to avoid challenging myself, avoid nervous situations. As a result, last year I tried something new. I got myself a guitar. I struggled through learning bar chords and picking patterns, but I wanted to share my progress with you folks. And so I played a rendition of In My Life by the Beatles. I was equally nervous and relieved that I did it. I think it's just a mindset of challenging yourself and embracing new opportunities, regardless of how they make you feel.
Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for bringing a lighter moment to a very serious time. And thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. And to all our viewers, we'll see you again next week on Live at the Legislature.
Thanks, everyone.
What are you doing? We have to go. I'm gonna be late for work.
It's Tuesday morning. I gotta record live at the legislature on Alelo. Senate and House leadership discussing what's happening at the state capitol.
So just watch it on the news tonight. Come on, let's go.
Hey, this is like getting the news before it's news. If only I could get this remote to work.
There. Can we go now?
No DVR? No problem. Watch Wednesday evenings at 7 p.m. on Channel 49.